This video was supposed to be just another rhythmic breakdown of the song Phantoms by Meshuggah, but while analyzing it, I found myself diving deep into a rabbit hole that I didn't mean to. I mean, rabbits are cute and all, but it's their hole and it's none of my business. Anyway, if you want to skip to the actual Phantoms breakdown, go to this magical timestamp here. But if you have a bunch of free time and you're a nerd, but like a nerd, stick around. I want to talk about the rules of songwriting and how Meshuggah may be breaking down boundaries no one ever did. Oh, and because this is more of like an essay video thing, I think it's appropriate to start with like a premise-related quote by someone famous. I think that's how you do it, right? Nailed it. Songwriting. Songwriting has been around for centuries, from 13th century troubadours to a young teenage girl with a guitar writing a song in her bedroom, all the way to half a dozen producers working in high-end studios on the next #1 Billboard hit. Now, sure, music itself, as an art form, has changed a bunch. I mean, the musical landscape of the 13th century is obviously quite different from the musical landscape of the 70s or from what we have now. But some aspects of songwriting passed the test of time. Some elements just stuck around and got cemented into the very essence of this art form. Very roughly speaking, song-based music, as opposed to instrumental music, film scores, or video game music, leans on two main pillars: text and, well, the music. And by music, I mean instrumentation, arrangement, groove, key, texture, all that. Now, I'm not gonna go into the whole does music support lyrics or does lyrics support music debate, because I'm a drummer and I know the answer, but regardless to which side of this issue you subscribe to, the songwriting process has adopted some subliminal tendencies that aren't written anywhere and no one is taught to follow them, and yet we all kinda do. One of these tendencies, or expectations, deals with form. Let's imagine a standard, ordinary pop-rock song structure. It might have an intro, a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus, maybe another verse, chorus again, some interlude or solo or something like that, back to the chorus, maybe twice, and we're done. The climax is probably somewhere around here, and the dynamic contour might look something like this. This can be considered a very standard song form, and a surprising amount of songs are constructed in this way, or at least similar to this way. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just an observation. Anyway, within this predetermined song layout, we have even more unspoken rules that are more relevant to the song that I'll eventually get to, and I swear I will. But hear me out. In Western musical culture, we have a very strong and heavy bias towards the number 4 and all of its multiplications. Besides 4 being the most dominant time cycle used in Western music, we like grouping things in 4s. We like 4-chord songs, 4-bar phrases, lines that repeat 4 times, and so on. And we tend to stick with this familiar flow because we're so used to it. Here's a cool anecdote about this. A lot of Indian music is drawn to the number 3 in a similar way. When I started playing with the Berkeley Indian Ensemble, which are releasing an album pretty soon, stay tuned, I was surprised how foreign sounding this 3 thing was for me. Having a line repeat 3 times, having a 3 or 6-bar verse, and stuff like that. It really took me a while to see the number 3 as something whole, as opposed to a short and rather lacking version of the number 4. I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but a 4-bar frame has a feeling, and I got used to that feeling so much that anything else felt almost wrong. Each bar or part in a 4-bar or 4-part phrase has a role, has a feeling. And when I was first exposed to a 3-bar structure, I had to teach myself to force the feeling of the 4th bar, the feeling of closure, onto the 3rd bar. And I had to repeat it enough times until I was comfortable perceiving a 3-part structure as much as I'm comfortable with a 4-part one. Going back to our topic, an 8 or 16 bar verse, chorus or bridge are very, very common. And in the few times I've heard music that deviates from this, it's always portrayed as a tool for creating more drama. They use the fact that you expect the 8th bar to be the last in order to elongate the tension before the chorus, for example, by adding another bar or two with a suited harmonic sequence, or just making a build-up longer. Okay, so let's say we have an intro, a verse, and a chorus. The intro would be 4 bars, the verse 8, and the chorus 8. This structure may have been dictated by the lyrics, if you're a songwriter, or by the musical parts or riffs, if you're an instrumentalist. The music and lyrics that adhere to this structure will shape the boundaries of this form in a very obvious way. So, for example, the intro line may start and create a bit of tension right before entering the verse. The moment the verse hits, the arrangement and the music underneath it would instantly react by changing in some way. Either an instrumentation change, some instruments are added or some may drop, a groove change, or just a dynamic change, going from playing loudly and openly to a more tamed, articulated atmosphere. Whatever it is, it's very common to have the arrangement and the musical content strictly follow the form's predetermined boundaries. So, for example, if a very intense riff was introduced in the verse, more often than not, it'll get cut once the next section arrives. My point being that in a lot of music that I listen to, or a lot of music that I've been a part of creating or performing, the form and song structure always overpower the musical ideas in a way. The music played or performed is subordinated to the form. Even if I wrote an epic riff for the chorus, for example, it's bound to get cut once the chorus is done, even if it didn't reach its full potential impact. The song structure carries the music, and not the other way around. And then Meshuggah releases Phantoms. So, when dissecting a Meshuggah song, you can look at the music in two different ways. You can look at it through the lens of the form, or through the lens of the riff. What do I mean by that? I'm happy you asked. Imagine a soccer field, for example, where I'm on one side and you're on the other. We're both watching the same game, but from opposite points of view. So the game taking place doesn't change, but the viewpoint does. The same goes for a lot of the Meshuggah songs. We can view it through the form side or through the riff side. So Spasm from last week, for example, takes the form side. Here's the whole verse, nice and clean and organized. And here's the adapted riff, kind of broken up to fit the frame. The same goes to Bleed that I did, and actually Do Not Look Down as well. Here's the verse. Here's the chorus, and look at the riff, all visually shifted and broken up. In this Phantoms breakdown, I'll do the opposite. I'll be looking at this song through the lens of the riff. And now, after the longest exposition I ever did, let's dive into Phantoms. So, let's break this riff up, and let's start from the rhythmic side of things. This riff is built upon small groups of 3 consecutive 16th notes. Let's call each group of 3 X, takata. We can leave X as is, or just stack it with more X's. So 2X, for example, or 3X. Takata, 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 takata. The main pattern of this riff would be 1X, 2X, 4X, 3X. And each chunk is separated by a 1/16th note rest. So this line alone equals 4 beats plus 7 beats plus 13 beats plus 10 beats, 34 beats. And it would sound like this. Takata, 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 takata. Great! Now, if we repeat this sequence, we can make an awesome sounding riff that would circle around for a while, but Meshuggah doesn't stop there. Ever so often, they'll add another group of 7x. 7. Takata, 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 takata. And they place it right here. When we add that 7x to our existing 34 beat pattern, we need to add 21 more beats, because 7 times 3, and another 1 beat for the gap. So we're adding 22 beats to this one, making it a 56 beat sequence. And now this whole thing becomes one gigantic pattern. All of this. This is huge. This massive mega monster sequence adds up to 34 plus 34 plus 34 plus 56 plus 34, 192 beats. 192 16th notes. That's one sequence. One. So 192 16th notes equals 48 quarter notes or 12 bars of 4/4. That's one repeat of the riff. 12 bars. Takata 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 ta. Okay, and now we get to the other half of this riff's content, which is the melodic side. And here it's kinda simple, which makes it kinda difficult. This insane rhythmic structure is played as 3 ascending notes: A flat, A, and B. A flat will be red, A would be yellow, and B would be blue. You can also call this G sharp, A, and B, as my 2 guitar player friends, Yoel and Alon, both said that G sharp, A, B would be more appropriate. They're probably right. Don't you hate it when guitar players are right? Anyway, each group of 3 beats, what we called X, gets assigned one of these notes, always in the same order, regardless of their external group. So for example, this would be A flat, or G sharp, then A and B, and A flat, A, B, A flat, A, and so on. You get the point. This can potentially mean that the melodic cycle might not necessarily align with the rhythmic cycle. But luckily we have 57 groups of 3 in this mega riff, and 57 can be evenly divided into 3, which means that each repetition of the riff will start on A flat, or G sharp. So, whew, we dodged that one. So this is how one full repeat looks like. We obviously have more than one, and now that we have the layout of each riff down, let's spread them out. By the way, I just noticed that I made a mistake here with the colors, but it's too much work to correct, so I'm sorry, but yeah. So here's an index for those smaller pieces, as we discussed before, and here are 6.5 reps of the cycle. And 6.5 is exactly the amount we need because, trust me, I wrote the script for this video, I know the ending. Now remember, each one of these repeats is 12 bars long. Okay, so now for the form of the first half of the song. We have a 16-bar intro, 16-bar verse, 8-bar bridge, 16-bar verse again, 8-bar bridge again, and a 16-bar interlude. The intro obviously starts here. I mean, at least those definitions are still agreed upon. The verse starts 16 bars later. So this whole thing is 12 bars, as we said before. So we need 4 more bars, which is 64 subbeats, and we get here to somewhere in the middle of this 3. The bridge starts another 16 bars after that, which gets us here. Verse 2 starts 8 bars after that, which gets us here. Then the bridge starts here, and the interlude starts here. Now the interlude is 16 bars long, which means it ends up cutting up that 7x group and shortening it to 5. You'll see. Also notice this cool thing. They always change in the same places. So the second 3 here, like the second 3 in line, and then the 7, then the second 3 again, then the 7, and the second 3. Coincidence? Now remember, this may be looking weird, especially as opposed to previous videos I did, because we're looking at it through the lens of the riff, and not through the lens of the form. And you might be asking yourself, why am I doing it this way? You might also ask yourself, why am I still talking? Which is a fair point. But anyway, this song, as opposed to Do Not Look Down, feels very different. The riff in Do Not Look Down is way shorter to begin with, and the 4/4 feel with the backbeat is the one that drives the song, in my opinion. That's why I chose to present it through the lens of the 4/4 as well. Phantoms is different. The riff is so big, so magnetic, and has so much gravitational power to it that I can't even seem to feel the 4/4 at all. Even though the backbeat is there, it just doesn't seem to be able to grab my rhythmic attention as much as it does with other songs. Which means that the snare doesn't feel like a steady pulse to me. It just feels like it's randomly scattered all over the riff. This also means that the form that follows the 4/4 side won't be intuitive for me as well, and I'll find it difficult to expect or predict where a section begins or where it ends. Which is why I chose to present the song through the lens of the riff, exactly the way I hear it. So the last few things I want to show you before I play the song are the musical elements that do actually change with the form. We'll be looking at drums, note choice, guitar articulation, guitar 2, and vocals. And we'll compare them in regards to the different sections of the song. The drums go back and forth between a more messy, wild groove with fills and stuff, all leading with the crash cymbal, to a more collected, tame groove led by the China cymbal. The pitches we have are those three we discussed before, except for verse 2. On the second verse, they add a fourth note to the cycle, and notice that they don't wait for the pattern to restart. They just add another note once the verse starts and take it back once it ends. Because why not? The articulation of the guitar switches between open notes to muted notes, which fits very well with the drums and establish a very noticeable difference in feel. The vocals only sing in the verses and in the interlude, and the evil Meshuggah lead guitar lines contrast that in the bridges. I've been talking way too much. Let's hear it. This song is quite a handful. Constructing a song this way, with such a strong focus on a singular riff, is something very new to me. And before you jump and say that God He Sees in Mirrors does the same thing for the entirety of the song, it's not quite the same. Yes, the rhythmic pattern continues throughout the whole song, but melodically there are many variations that feel distinct enough from one another to make it sound like a completely different riff. Also, the 4/4 does drive the feel in that song, in my opinion. And lastly, both the rhythmic and the melodic elements of that song don't have the same weight that Phantom has. I don't know if this makes any sense. In my eyes, the rhythmic thread of God He Sees is more like a hidden gem, and it's not as obvious. This band is amazing, and moreover, I think they're really important. Regardless to if you like this song or not, or if you like this band or not, it's not every day that we find a band that challenges the art form itself, like these guys do. And man, aren't we lucky that we get to experience it? Specifically in a time that feels like everything has already been done. Oh, wow, this was long. That's it for today. I know there's another riff in this song, so let me know if you want a Phantoms mini part 2 on that one. It'll be shorter, I promise. But for now, I just want to thank my Patreon subscribers. These videos take a tremendous amount of work on my end, and the support of my Patreon supporters make it possible for me to prioritize these productions by being able not to take more side gigs just to pay the bills. So if you have been a supporter, or if you're considering it, I really want to thank you. I also want to thank Liran and Nachal, two very good friends of mine that allowed me to use their room for the production of this video. Thank you very much, you guys are epic. Next week I'm going to take a closer look at the song I as the grand finale for this MAYshuggah month. And it'll be live, so come say hi, May 31st, 12 PM Eastern Time. It'll be fun and very scary for sure. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the future.